Well, welcome everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. This is the first time we celebrate the Digital Resilience Forum. I would like to, again, thank you all for all the speakers, participants, panelists, and everyone attendees that has made this possible. So my name is Daniel Izquierdo. You are attending the Digital Resilience Forum, just in case. First of all, let's start with the conference. So we'll be today here from 9 to 6, having a great conversations about digital resilience, sharing, learning from each other, and having great discussions. Digital resilience is a key for the success of our software societies because all of our societies are based in software. Any service outage or data leak have a direct impact in our lives. No matter our private communications, our salaries, our communications going from point A to point B, everything is run by software, or even including our safety or security as citizens in this world. You probably remember the Amazon Web Services outage a few weeks ago. Probably you remember, those in Spain at least, the energy blackout that we faced. So this is probably the peak of the iceberg of this discussion, and we are having this discussion today. Just for setting up the scene, what I would like to say is that we are not here to point to the problems, because we are all facing about the problems of digital resilience. We are here to share how we are trying to deal with those problems. We have people from academia, we have people from government, from public administrations, big corporations, small and medium enterprises. I would like to see at some point that we are having that discussion about how we are doing this. Two examples. Typically governments, if there is a flood somewhere, they are super good at disaster recovery. So that's something that they put resources and then things are fixed. Then if you think, for instance, about the banking system, they are super good at business continuity. But then maybe government or public administrations are sometimes not that good at business continuity, right? So then what we can learn from each other? This is why we are here. So the question to all of you is, that I would like to see is what have you learned? And we will ask for your feedback after all of this is happening. And resiliency is a nothing without technology. Again, we are a software society. Technology is basically key for our success, for moving forward to move forward together. Again, what I would like to see is that we have people coming from a more political background, we have people coming from a more management background, we have technical people as well, so please share and learn from each other. And we are quite in an interesting situation these days, because the geopolitical, the pendulum of geopolitics is changing, right? So we came from a globalization perspective into a moment where first we have a lot of polarization in politics, and we are growing, we are building walls. We are building virtual walls. We are discussing about creating islands of technology. We are having certain discussion at that level between politicians. But then at the same time, we are even growing and building physical walls. And that's probably something that didn't happen in globalization, but it has consequences nowadays. And this can be seen as illustrated, for instance, as kind of physical walls, the tariffs that we've seen that are happening here and there, and the relationship that we've seen between, again, all across the world. This technology I mentioned before is basically in this very same place, so it's part of this conversation. That's something that we need to discuss. But this is not all about problems, basically. I would like to bring some good news. There is something called open source. The beauty probably of open source is that first has been a proven way of working during the last 30 years. I mean, if you have an Android phone, or basically if you are using internet, that's running mainly on open source. The beauty of open source is that this is a zero-trust environment. So open source nowadays is giving us exactly the tools about not trusting the other, but having the space for collaboration. And that's what we are discussing today as well. So basically the question for all of us, basically, is if we can be technologically independent while at the same time keep collaborating. So open source is giving that space. So then we'll have today a discussion about digital resilience, but then at the same time we'll go into discussions for technology and basically the role of open source. I'm not saying open source has the answer for everything. What I'm saying is that open source is part of the solution, part of the answer. So today is about having this discussion, and if you disagree, that's great. So we have a microphone there, so we can discuss about that. By the way, probably you are aware of this number that more than 80% of new modern applications, of any new modern applications, more than 80% of them are based on third-party libraries that are open source. So basically, you are consuming open source no matter what. And this is where we are. So we have in Europe these days a certain legislation coming to the front. So probably you're aware of the Cyber Resilience Act and others that are reinforcing that discussion about first bringing transparency first to the SBOM, and that's bringing some new opportunities to understand exactly who is behind all of this. And that's very important because we all think probably of a tank. And I don't really want to bring the word war, but that's happening nowadays. But you can think of a tank, how the bill of materials of a tank is built, basically, and you know exactly who produced what, when, and where. This doesn't happen in software. So software is a second-level citizen. And me, as a citizen, basically, of this country or Europe or the world, I'm certainly afraid. And this is a scary situation because we are not having the right attention to software. So basically, just as a final conclusion, final thoughts, I want to have in mind at the end of today that resilience is possible, technological independence is possible, and business continuity is possible, but we need to keep probably working and collaborating together. Just going to the discussion on our a bit more local, let's say, I wanted to bring 2 or 3 examples of how this is now part of the more political discussion, specifically in Spain. So those that don't know, the Elcano Royal Institute is a think tank on global politics. So they have started now to look at open source from a geopolitics and global politics perspective. So then open source is as important as this. So they are now part of the political discourse. A bit more, these are 2 general newspapers here in Spain. This is in Spanish. The one on the left is talking about digital sovereignty. The one on the right is basically discussing about the problem of having the outage from Amazon Web Services and the dependent from a society perspective. So, by the way, I wanted to bring this as a highlight from what Spain was, for those that are not aware of this. Like in 2006, 2005, 2004, there was a super strong political movement on open source. This was not related specifically to digital sovereignty, but it was related to having certain capacity to make decisions. And we'll see today with our keynote speakers part of this speech. But the point is that this already happened, but basically at some point, the movement, the inertia simply disappeared. And we are here again. So let's see what we can do. And then, again, as I mentioned, we have 5 super great keynote speakers. The first one is Omar Mohsin, Open Source Software Coordinator at the United Nations, that will share some insights on the importance of technology and open source for the digital public good. We'll have John Ellis, who is a president and head of product at CodeThink, a company specialized in trustable software for safety-critical and high-performance systems. We'll have Adriana Gro, CEO of Sovereignty Tech Agency, that will bring STA views on the basic building blocks of any modern technology and the role of open source, as well as the need to invest and make basically sustainable to safeguard them. We have Amanda Brock as well from the CEO of Open UK that will discuss about the term of digital sovereignty and fables around this. So basically, we need to keep collaborating and working together. And finally, we'll have Tanu Sanan from Head of Software Engineering at the BBC, sharing the digital history of the BBC and what this has meant for a well-known public service with the importance of the BBC. Then after this, great keynote speakers. We have 4 panels. Basically, the 4 panels will go into growing resiliency from an international perspective, so basically having a discussion on what's going on out there, so then we can learn as here. We'll move there into the importance of sustainable open ecosystems. So we'll bring people from the open source space and foundations as well, and then we'll move into the workforce, because basically without having a skilled group of people in each of the countries, we cannot do anything. To finally finish into okay, where do I start? So what does it mean, this digital resilience? What does it mean in terms of in practice? And then the workshops. These will be, or are intentionally done to be hands-on workshop and learn, basically, ideally, from the great speakers we have. So we are starting the day with a kickstarting your OSPO, your open source program office. This doesn't matter at the level of a government or public administration or companies. Then we'll go into building a resilient and digital trust, because basically with Ramon Reed, that is around there, where we'll discuss about digital identity. We cannot grow and build a digital space or have discussions about digital society without fixing, in the first place, the problem of digital identity. We'll have a Tom Sadler as well from the BBC on disaster recovery, and finally a workshop from STA with Paloma and Omar as well on the impact of public funding in technology. Finally, last but not least, I would like to thank you, all of our sponsors. So we have Platinum sponsor Vitergia and Gold sponsors Linux Professional Institute and Red Hat. And then we have some others, silver sponsors as Scanos, Open Nebula, Across Legal, About Code, and Open Regulatory Compliance Working Group from the Eclipse Foundation. I would like to share a big thank you to all the organizers of this event. So thank you for your time and commitment, ideas, thoughts, and everything. So thank you. And this is basically all on my side. So I hope you all have a fantastic event. And now I would like to invite Omar. Omar is there. Omar Moshin, United Nations for the first keynote. So, Omar.